Alright, hello citizens of the Nigelverse. It is Nigel once again, and this is going to be another match review. So, we continue our look at Survivor Series matches is for the month of November. And while the storyline going into this match was questionable, featuring some questionable choices and some questionable booking decisions, there's no denying that this might be a lot of people consider it to be, and it may very well be one of the best Survivor Series matches of all time. So what happens is when WWE must stand tall against the Alliance? I'm talking about Survivor Series 2001, Team WWF versus Team Alliance. And so, as always, I'm not professional wrestling reviewer, analyst, or anything like that. Just a man who enjoys a good time, and I definitely had a really good time with this match. Like I said, the storyline leading into it, the invasion storyline, has been a subject of debate whether or not it's actually bad or just misunderstood. And I will go in fully admitting, didn't watch the not the Alliance, well, the Alliance, but also didn't watch the invasion storyline in full leading into this match. I'm aware of it and a lot of the stuff that happens surrounding that particular storyline, but unfortunately, I was too young to watch it in real time. I was about 1 year old, but I still wasn't watching wrestling like that, or at least if I did, I didn't really remember it. But catching up on the story and the lore behind it, some, like I said, some questionable decisions made, and we'll definitely get into that. But as for the match itself, we'll get right into it. So if you've seen these reviews of mine before, you kind of already know how this works. If you haven't, I'm going to be talking about what I liked and what I disliked about the match, as well as kind of a gray area. And I'm sure you might be able to guess the gray area. So, and of course, the storyline equally into it will not really play into how we grade the match. It does and it doesn't, and we'll explain why. So, as for what I liked about the match, the talent pool, is quite a lot of talent in this match. Both teams are definitely stacked. Just from like a perspective of former world champions, future world champions, and legends, and already kinda in their own right, but even legends in the making, definitely in this match. So for Team WWF, you have The Undertaker, Chris Jericho, Kane, The Big Show, and The Rock. And from Team Alliance, you have Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kurt Angle, Rob Van Dam, Booker T, and Shane McMahon. And yes, Shane McMahon, one of the leaders of the Alliance, alongside his sister Stephanie, and also competing in this match. And say what you want about Shane McMahon, but he does do his part in this match, because there is quite a bit of action as well. And Shane McMahon being very weaselly, he whenever a member of Team WWF is about to pin one of his guys, he jumps in and saves the day. And another thing I like about the match, the stakes. The world building and the story building and the stakes are definitely there for this match. You have it in several different ways. You have the action, of course, in the ring, but then you also have commentary, that being Paul Heyman and Jim Ross. A lot of people feel that Paul Heyman and Jim Ross as a commentary duo are kind of almost like a sleeper hit of a commentary duo. There are a select few who even prefer it more to Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler. But they do a great job. Of course, Paul Heyman firmly Team Alliance, and Jim Ross firmly Team WWF, and you see the stakes playing out there with Jim Ross. With Jim Ross saying he believes in the WWF, he wants the WWF to pull through, while Paul Heyman pretty much mocking that, saying, the WWF's going down, the Alliance is going to take over, we're taking over, and this is winner take all. So whichever her side loses, that company will be dissolved. So theoretically, if the Alliance were to win in this match, spoiler alert, they don't. If the Alliance were to win in this match, they would get full control over WWE. And reintroduce obviously WCW and ECW, because that's what the Alliance was comprised of, is Team WCW and Team ECW. Who, of course, Shane was the president of WCW, and Stephanie was the president of, or the leader, GM, what have you, of ECW. I forget the exact term, but pretty much the leaders of WCW and ECW, respectively. So, and of course, this ironically stemming from like the last episode of Nitro, where Vince McMahon officially buys WCW, but Shane McMahon in storyline buys it right from under his dad's nose. So Shane has a WCW, and Stephanie, I forget exactly how Stephanie comes in to owning ECW. So they're the essential captains. But then, speaking of which, they cut back to the back several times. You have a locker room for Team WWF, all the WWF guys, but then a locker room for Team Alliance and all those guys. So really, that sense of world building, really building the stakes and building a winner-take-all dire situation and last gasp effort from the WWF as they've been dealing with the Alliance up to this point. And they really got to pull through and get the win here. So all that world building really elevates this match and really gives it those stakes and really fleshes it out. There's things on the line. They really emphasize, and rightfully so, they emphasize the weight and the importance of this match. And I think they do it in a really great way, really showing that it's all or nothing. It's all on this. The WWF, Team WWF definitely has to pull through here, and ultimately they do. And there's also many stories throughout. There's the coexistence of Chris Jericho and The Rock. Can they coexist? There's Stone Cold Steve Austin and Kurt Angle. Can they coexist? Of course, Stone Cold Steve Austin, you might be like, Nigel, why is Stone Cold Steve Austin and Team Alliance? Yes, Stone Cold Steve Austin turned his back on the WWF, joined the Alliance, and Kurt Angle had joined the Alliance as well. I believe Kurt joined at SummerSlam of this year, so they're part of the Alliance. But those two stories do get resolved. After Jericho is eliminated by Austin, he immediately takes out The Rock with the breakdown, aka the skull-crushing finale that The Miz now uses. Obviously, they don't want people remembering that Chris Jericho actually used the move. And man, Chris Jericho really did invent everything, didn't he? So Jericho takes out The Rock to finish that story thread. But to wrap up the other story thread is that Kurt Angle turns on Austin. He grabs the championship. So it is down to Austin and The Rock, which I think is a very smart move. Of course, Austin and The Rock very intertwined, facing off at that year's WrestleMania, which is where the Austin heel turn began. The first one, not the second one, but where that Austin heel turn began, and at WrestleMania, and of course their previous match at WrestleMania 15. Austin's going to grab the championship and nail The Rock with it. It doesn't quite get it. The Rock stops him. Angle has the championship, and he just beelines right for Austin, just nails him with the title, and that's ultimately what gets Team WWF the win. And it turns out I forget whether or not they did mention it after the match, but it did turn out that Kurt Angle was a double agent and truly with WWF the whole time to screw over the Alliance. It's almost kind of an unnecessary wrinkle, but I guess it works, and it does give the WWF that win at the 11th hour, so I guess it works in that regard. But those do get resolved, and the stakes are there, or the action is pretty solid for the most part. Kind of just more so a funny moment is it takes 5 finishers to eliminate the Big Show. I believe it was 5. So 5 finishers to eliminate the Big Show. And then not 5. Actually, I think it might have been 5. I think all 5 of Team WWF or Team Alliance hit their finishers on the Big Show, and then they hit the other 5. and then Team WWF hits 5 finishers on Shane McMahon, not because he's big and is a big deal and needs to be taken out like the Big Show, but because of Shane McMahon, and it's not all 5. Obviously, Big Show is eliminated, but you get the idea. But yeah, so that was also pretty funny. So yeah, that world building and the action throughout. Is what really breathes life into this match. If I did have to find something to not really like or nitpick about, I think Paul Heyman, he does do his job being the heel commentator, bragging about how the Alliance is going to win, how the Alliance is going to trump WWE, or WWF, I should say. But I think he does go overboard a little bit in this match, to the point where it does kind of get grating a little bit. Although it does have a very funny payoff after Angle betrays Austin and The Rock pins him, and Heyman's just hanging there in stunned silence after that. I think that was pretty funny, and also a nice shot at the end showing the 2 different locker rooms. Obviously, Team Alliance is very somber, very sulking because they just lost. Meanwhile, Team WWF, the WWF locker room, they're celebrating. They're like, yeah, we won, yeah, stuff like that, So, so adding more to that world building, but yeah, that was the kind of grating part. But okay, all right, you know what? I've tap danced around it long enough. The gray area that I talked about. It's time to address the elephant in the room. I'm sure a lot of you guys have been patiently waiting for me to talk about it. Unsure if I would talk about it, but okay, I'll bite. We do have to bring it up. Not very much of an alliance. Like the thing about, and I think the main problem that a lot of people had with the whole Invasion Alliance storyline is that for starters, there was a lot of people missing. No Triple H, no Sting, no Goldberg, no NWO. Quite a few people missing. No Scott Steiner, or a lot of people that you expect from like WCW or even ECW, who not present in the storyline. To the point where, not only did you get some people who kind of got lost in the shuffle when it came to the Alliance, not only did the Alliance look weak in quite a few places throughout the portion of the storyline, not only did they have to shoehorn the McMahon elements into the storyline, having to needlessly insert them, and I'm sure that might be due to lack of people, or perhaps just Vince McMahon wanting to throw the last bit of dirt on both WCW and ECW, maybe a combination of both. But the other thing is that it bleeds over into this match as well. Look at Team Alliance. And now Team WWF has a lot of, obviously WWF guys, that being The Undertaker, Chris Jericho, Kane, Big Show, and The Rock. Meanwhile, Team Alliance consists of Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kurt Angle, Rob Van Dam, Booker T, and Shane McMahon. Now, Rob Van Dam and Booker T, you can make a case for, obviously. Booker T, he, of course, 5-time world champion in WCW. Meanwhile, Rob Van Dam and Mr. Pay-Per-View, who Mr. Monday Night. Ironically, that was because of him working with WWE while he was in ECW. They had kind of their working relationship, but yeah. So, very much like the WCW, ECW guys. But Steve Austin, Kurt Angle, Shane McMahon, Kurt Angle, the guy who almost completely distanced himself from the wrestling business entirely because of what Raven and the Sandman did at ECW High Incident, I believe the event was, where Sandman, I can't go where he was, but yeah, Kurt Angle still part of Team Alliance after that. At Stone Cold Steve Austin, and as well as Shane McMahon, and Shane McMahon very much a McMahon and mostly in there, and definitely compared to everyone else in this match, one of these things is not like the other. One of these things doesn't belong. But then there's Austin. Now, granted, Steve Austin has been in both WCW and ECW. For those of you who didn't know, Steve Austin was in WCW for quite a bit of time, as stunning Steve Austin, part of the Dangerous Alliance, stuff like that, as well as the Hollywood Blondes alongside Brian Pillman, and he left WCW, He was let go by WCW, mainly due to his lack of marketability, which even Steve Austin has admitted he was, to the point where even Arn Anderson asked him what makes Stunning Steve so stunning, and he didn't have an answer for him. So he left, but then went to ECW. Now, granted, his time at ECW was brief, and he was brought in, and partially due to Paul E. Dangerously, aka Paul Heyman, remembering Austin from the Dangerous Alliance, got him a spot in ECW. His time there was brief. He didn't really have a whole lot of matches. I think he only had a single-digit amount of matches. He didn't have a whole lot. He was pretty much there for a cup of coffee, but that was a very strong and important cup of coffee because as with the promos and kind of his his mannerisms and stuff like that, you can definitely see, if you go back and watch some of the stuff he did in ECW, you can see the seeds of the Steve Austin character, the Stone Cold Steve Austin character, being born. So obviously, Stone Cold Steve Austin was in both of those companies. But he was a WWF guy at this point. He had been in WWF for a while now. This really almost felt like WWF versus WWF, and that's kind of how they built it. Obviously, with like people defecting, such as Austin, defecting to the Alliance, or Kurt Angle, defecting to the Alliance. Although obviously he would come back. So it really kind of was weird in that regard. Like, it still worked out. The match was still great, and you still have the talented guys there. But from a storyline perspective, it's like, really? And I think that was the thing with the. I think that's why a lot of people feel like the Alliance storyline / like the Invasion storyline was very misunderstood, because on paper, not a bad idea. Not the last time they do an Invasion like storyline, but not a bad idea. Getting people invading and taking it to WWF, cool on paper, that is. But with guys, notable names being absent, either because they were injured, like in the case of Triple H, or weren't signed yet, had their contracts weren't picked up, such as Goldberg, Sting, the Steiners, etc. I think really hurt the Alliance storyline in the end. But as meh as the storyline may have been, and as not as fondly as people may look back on the Alliance storyline, we did get a hell of a Survivor Series match, and I guess in the end, that's all that really matters. But nevertheless, that is going to do it for this review. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor: like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, turn on post notifications so you know every time I upload a video, so you can see as soon as it drops. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on the match, my review. Did you like the match? Did you dislike my review of the match? Let me know. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Peace.